It's funny how one moment can unravel an entire life. One reckless decision, fueled by something as simple and mundane as alcohol, can leave you questioning everything about yourself, your choices, your values, your marriage. And now, here, I am sitting in the quiet aftermath of it all, trying to piece together what happened while drowning in guilt. Let me start at the beginning. Because maybe if I tell this story from the very first step, I'll understand why I ended up where I did. Maybe then I'll forgive myself, or at least hate myself a little less. It was supposed to be harmless. Just drinks with old friends after years of losing touch. My husband, Ryan, had been working late nights for weeks, buried under deadlines. At work, we barely saw each other anymore, let alone talked. The spark we once shared felt like it had dimmed into embers, flickering weakly but refusing to die out completely. So when my best friend from college invited me to meet up with our group, including him, I didn't think twice. Top him, Alex, my ex-boyfriend before Ryan, the guy who broke my heart in ways I thought no one else ever could. But also the guy who taught me how to love deeply, passionately, recklessly. When we were together, he consumed every part of me, the good and the bad. He left scars that never fully healed, even after Ryan came along and stitched them back together with his steady presence. I told myself seeing him again wouldn't matter. After all, I was married now, happily married, or so I kept telling myself. What harm could come from catching up over cocktails? The bar was loud, filled with laughter and clinking glasses. It was easy to slip into nostalgia, reminiscing about college days when life seemed simpler. As the night wore on, the drinks kept coming. One turned into two, two turned into three, and soon enough, the room started spinning just slightly. Alex sat across from me, looking exactly the same, yet somehow different. His hair was shorter, his face more defined, but his eyes still held that mischievous glint that used to make my stomach flip. Every time he smiled, I felt a pang of something I couldn't quite name: longing, regret, or maybe just loneliness disguised as familiarity. At some point, everyone else drifted away, either leaving early or moving to the dance floor. Suddenly, it was just us, alone. And suddenly, the space between us felt smaller than it should have. "You look happy," he said, swirling the ice in his glass. His voice was soft, almost hesitant, like he wasn't sure whether he believed his own words. "I am," I replied quickly, too quickly. "Ryan's great. We're good." He nodded, but there was something in his expression, a flicker of doubt, or maybe sadness, that made me want to say more, to convince him, to convince myself. But instead, I reached for another drink. Looking back, Tate, I don't remember exactly when things shifted. Maybe it was when he leaned closer, his hand brushing mine as he reached for the check. Maybe it was when he asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't broken up?" Or maybe it was the fourth, or was it the fifth? Gin and tonic that loosened my inhibitions enough to stop thinking clearly. Whatever it was, the next thing I knew, we were outside, standing under the dim glow of a street lamp. The air was cool against my flushed skin, and his eyes were searching mine like they used to when we were younger. Before I could stop myself, I kissed him, and he kissed me back. Waking up the next morning felt like being hit by a truck. My head throbbed, my mouth tasted like regret, and the weight of what I'd done pressed down on my chest like a boulder. I lay there in Alex's bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the night over and over in my mind. How had I let this happen? How had I betrayed Ryan, not just physically, but emotionally? 'Cause deep down, I knew this wasn't just about alcohol. It wasn't just about catching up with an old flame. This was about the cracks in my marriage that I'd been ignoring for far too long. This was about the pieces of myself I'd lost somewhere along the way, when I finally mustered the courage to call Ryan. My voice trembled as I tried to explain. It was the alcohol, I said, clinging to the excuse like a lifeline. Thinking straight, I swear, it meant nothing. But even as the words left my lips, I knew they weren't entirely true. Alcohol might have been the catalyst, but the feelings, the doubts, the longing, the dissatisfaction, they had been simmering beneath the surface for months, maybe even years. Ryan didn't yell. He didn't cry. Instead, he looked at me with a mixture of hurt and disbelief that cut deeper than any angry words ever could. Was it worth it? He asked quietly, his voice breaking on the last word. I wanted to scream, to tell him yes, it was all a mistake, that I loved him and only him. But the truth was, I didn't know anymore. Not really. In the weeks that followed, we tried to fix things. Therapy sessions, heartfelt apologies, promises to do better. But the trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. Eventually, Ryan moved out, taking half of our shared life with him. As for Alex, we never spoke again. Whatever fleeting connection we'd rekindled that night disappeared as quickly as it had come, leaving behind only emptiness and shame now. Months later, I sit alone in the apartment we once shared, surrounded by memories I can't escape. I blame it on the alcohol, but I know better. I know that cheating isn't just about opportunity or intoxication, it's about choices. Choices I made, consequences I'll carry forever. Sometimes, I wonder if Ryan and I could have worked through it, if we could have rebuilt what we lost. Other times, I wonder if our marriage was already doomed long before that fateful night. Either way, I'll never truly know. All I'm left with is this, the knowledge that I hurt someone I loved more than anything, and the hope that someday, somehow, I'll find a way to forgive myself. Until then, I'll keep living with the weight of my mistakes, hoping they'll teach me how to be better even if it's too late for us.
If you connected with this story or found it thought-provoking, please take a moment to like and subscribe for more content that dives deep into the complexities of human emotions. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue bringing stories that resonate with real-life experiences. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How would you have handled this situation? Let's start a conversation about love, trust, and redemption.